AskReddit by Impossible Floor 2836. Americans, what is something us Europeans aren't ready to hear? The way people drive in Italy makes me understand why they're so religious. And also so blasphemous. Source: I'm an Italian that swears like a sailor every time I have to drive somewhere. Most of us can't afford to visit you. We aren't being rude, we're just broke. German here, but us Europeans aren't ready to hear this. Abortion is generally not legal in Germany. It's available, it's usually not prosecuted, but it's not legal. Doctor in Munich. I can confirm. It's logistically also very difficult to get an abortion in Germany. You must be 12 weeks pregnant or earlier. You must have a consultation with a psychologist, social worker, before. And it has to be done at a certified center, of which there are very few. 9/10 gynecologists don't even offer any abortion services. While abortions are technically illegal, they are not prosecuted in very specific circumstances, but it's very hard to do so. Our ideas of foreign cuisine are basically products of the immigrant experience. I had an interesting sidebar tangent thought thing in a similar vein recently. The biscuit vs biscuit debate between UK and USA. Apparently at around the time of the American Revolution, American biscuits were a product that grew out of food shortages and supply limitations. They didn't have any leavening, so they were pretty crispy. They were similar to other biscuits in the UK at the time. They were mostly used as a way to make the most of what you had, and to help the flour keep longer, especially for travel, on both sides of the Atlantic. But then as our histories diverged more and more over time, so did our food cultures. UK biscuits stayed crispy and went sweet. US biscuits went fluffy and savory. The leavening agent used in US biscuits derived from pearlash potash and was native to the US and used by Native Americans as a leavening agent. Experimentation through the Victorian era. Most every European I've met who hasn't been here before has been totally unprepared for the massive size of the US. We had some distant relatives come to Boston from Scotland. We asked what their plans were, and one of the things they wanted to do was take a day trip to LA. I asked, did you rent a rocket car? Your perception of America is too informed by the internet rather than reality. It works both ways. But still, you're not immune. You're gonna need air conditioners in your homes pretty soon. Yeah, we're still in denial for the most part, but slowly coming to understand that. The KFC Double Down will both disgust and delight you. My husband just told me yesterday that they brought it back. Twitter is a totally small network where simply 10% of customers make up 80% of the content. There's actually a UX rule of thumb, that's the 9091 rule. It tends to be true across multiple social media platforms. 1% of users create the original posts, 9% of users engage with or comment on those posts, 90% of users just lurk. Public toilets being free should be a standard. Not an American, but having to pay €1 to just wash my hands at an Italian train station was wild. Quit smoking. I was just in Italy for 10 days. I loved it, and there were a lot of things I thought I wish we had that, but damn, everything smelled like cigarettes and sewage. When I lived in Germany. German girl, I've read that Mexicans in Los Angeles experience a lot of racism. Me, yes, Mexican people in Los Angeles do experience racism. Probably similar to the Turks here in Germany. German girl, that's different. The Turks aren't suitable here. They don't fit in. When I was bartending here in Austria, I would warn people not to say racist or hateful shit around me. The answer was always, we're talking about Turkish people, not black people. Going to the bathroom is a human right and should be free. The irony of having free healthcare but having to pay to use the bathroom. Racism isn't just an American thing. Deleted. British people mock us for using imperial measurements and then still order pints at the pub and use stones as a measurement of weight. You think that's bad? We also measure fuel efficiency by miles per gallon while filling up in liters. Y'all are getting fat too. In France anything tastes good with enough butter. It's too difficult to generalize Europe as a whole, but I have plenty of things to say about individual countries. Before you start, do you have a problem with Luxembourg? Tanning to that extent looks horrible. Stop doing that to yourselves, mainly for the UK. Putting an orange colored cream that will leave large uneven patches is not tanning, aimed at my Essex neighbors. I was surprised to discover how friendly and helpful Americans are. From watching TV you just come across as assholes, but in person you guys are great. I once went to a cafe in America where the barista, after handing me my coffee, told me to have a dynamite day. No one has told me to have a dynamite day since. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been eliminated from playoff contention. Never thought I'd ever see a fellow CBJ fan here outside of hockey subs. Making jokes about school shootings and the healthcare system every time someone makes a joke about your country for some minor quirk or issue makes you look thin-skinned and obnoxious. If you haven't been here, living in America is 100% totally different from what you think. Having moved from the West Coast to the East Coast, I can safely say even most Americans don't know how differently we live from state to state. Americans have big portion sizes in restaurants because we have a big leftovers culture. While some people will eat their whole meal, it's completely normal if you don't and you'll be offered a to-go box to take it home. There isn't really a big expectation to finish your meal at restaurants. Going to restaurants growing up, my parents would always order me a regular adult meal and the leftovers would be my next 2-3 meals. Biscuits and gravy is delicious. I watched a TikTok of Irish high schoolers trying biscuits and gravy for the first time. And watching their reactions go from fear and disgust to heaven and bliss was amazing. I've traveled internationally quite a bit. Most every European I've met who is encountering Americans for the first time says the stereotypes they had in their heads weren't true. Some of these stereotypes were all fat and loud, ignorant of other cultures, self-serving and mean. People are just people. In a big enough sample size, you will find all types regardless of where you are in the world. Y'all can be just as racist as Americans. I've seen the way you talk about Romani and Muslims. Holy shit. I grew up in a very diverse area. I'm from Antwerp, a province in Belgium, and their racism wasn't all that bad, but I moved 6 months ago to Limburg. Because of that, I also go to a new school now, and the first thing I noticed is that it was extremely white. I'm talking 95% white. Not that there is anything wrong with that, I thought, until I joined a group of guys around my age, all white, and holy fuck, the unhinged racism was insane. Like, there is a difference between dark humor and racism. This was very clearly straight up racism. Like if they saw a person on the street that wasn't white, they would just bully TF out of them. Verbally and physically. Air conditioning, ice, and free potable water are all nice things to have. Screens on windows. English people, you invented the word soccer and used it for many decades without any problems. Why as Americans do we continue to get shit from you guys for using this word? I'm British, but this one makes me laugh. Americans get shit even though pretty much every English speaking country except Britain, Ireland, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, call it soccer. None of them get shit for it. And one of our most popular shows in the UK is called Soccer AM. We also have Soccer Saturdays as well. In the USA there's a ton of people that actually wear pajamas in public. Come visit Dublin. It's not just in the US. There are actually more states than Texas, New York, and California. And even when talking about California, New York, and Texas, there are more to the states than people think. Usually when mentioning CA, it's almost always LA and beaches, when it's actually a huge state with different climates. NY is always about Nick, which area-wise is small when compared to how large the state is, which is actually a lot of rural suburban space. Texas is usually cowboys and pickup trucks. But not everyone fits that. And every state has jerks in pickup trucks. We're not uncultured. It's a 10-hour flight to a foreign country. We can't just drive over to another country for a weekend getaway. As an Australian, I can relate to this. It takes around 24 hours to get to most other countries, if not longer. There is of course the exceptions of New Zealand and Bali, but even then you are still spending a fair bit. Bali has so many Australians there, the culture is basically the same, and New Zealand is kind of like what Canada is to the USA. I'm planning a 9-week trip to Europe and it's going to cost a minimum of $11,000 odd just for me, and that's not even including the bills rent I still have to pay while I'm over there. Luckily I'm a single adult with no dependents, and I prioritize travel over owning a house or starting a family. I remember as a kid, in the 90s, we were a lower income family, dad and 4 kids, and it was a luxury to get in a caravan and take a trip to another state for a week or 2. Forget about going overseas. We are actually pretty smart as a nation. The stupid ones are just the loudest and the most annoying. I saw a map on Reddit once that showed what every country leds the world in. For the United States it said Nobel Prizes and lawnmower deaths. If that is not the most concise summary of these United States, then I don't know what is. Not all American beer tastes like water. Yes, many big name domestic beers taste watery, but not all of them. There are also tons of great craft breweries and microbreweries all over the country that make great beer. We also don't all drink Budweiser. I certainly don't. I was at a board game night at a pub here in England and a girl smugly joked that it must be nice to have real beer. I was drinking an IPA, she was drinking Carling. Nasty. When people say Americans are, I feel like they don't realize how huge America is. We span 5 time zones, which makes it hard to be consistent in anything, and it's really impossible to lump us all into a single group. Edit. 6 time zones. Enough to forget about some. True. I have traveled to Europe and they all forget this. I met a guy in Germany who was planning a trip to the US. I had to deliver the bad news that his trip was wildly unrealistic as he wanted to travel to every corner of the US in 2 weeks. Deleted. It's 2023. It's past time for you to open up those cracks on your bathroom stalls. How are you supposed to be able to judge the contents of a man's soul if you've never made direct eye contact with him while he's pooping? Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are yummy. Strawberry and blackberry blended preserves are the best for this. My family and I loved a trailer behind our house for a year or so after Hurricane Andrew in the early 90s, and to this day, I cannot watch The Price is Right without a PB and Amp, J and Crunchy Cheetos. And in the rare times in my adult life that I end up eating a PB and Amp, J and Crunchy Cheetos, I have a strong urge to watch that show. PB and Amp, J's are just so cozy. As a Brit, this may not be my place, but the European superiority complex over America is totally unearned. Most of the American people I have met are very friendly, hardworking, and open people. Lots of European people are somewhat less so. This may just be anecdotal, but I think there's a genuine cultural difference. As for American politics, which I have zero interest in and am sick of hearing about, most European countries have major political issues themselves and can't claim any serious moral high ground. Anyway, politics and the actual people of any country are very different things. Europeans shouldn't see our continent as some fantastic place that beats the rest, but just somewhere with many positive and negative attributes. I've read on here before that Americans are just a lot more open about our problems. We have racism just like everybody else. We just don't try to hide it. Putting out issues out there for everyone to see helps to get them dealt with more easily. You shouldn't have to pay to use the bathroom or drink water at a restaurant. Americans aren't all knuckle-dragging idiots. We just can't keep our most ignorant off of TV. Hot water and cold water can be fed into the same pipe and come out as pleasantly warm water in your bathroom sink. You're just as fucked up as we are, but in different ways. Europe is more racist than the US in many ways, but it's not politicized like it is in the USA. I have black American friends who have been told they can't eat inside certain restaurants in Europe, which would never happen in the US today. Not to mention the way the Roma G-size are discussed by Europeans. I was shocked to hear such casual racism there, often while criticizing the racism in the USA. Heard a story about a white dude in Japan who wasn't allowed to eat in a restaurant with his date. Flat out told him his Japanese date was fine, but he wasn't allowed in. And she told him that was super common. American people equals American government. Edit. Oh shit, my first Reddit award ever. Edit 2. Whoever gave me that Reddit award, thank you. This is probably true for many nations with bad reputations. As an American, the nice, hardworking, family-oriented, good friends, Chinese people I've met here in America bear no resemblance to the Chinese government. It's okay to put ice cubes in your beverages. Warm soda is terrible lol. Not everyone should wear those tiny bathing suits. I always thought Speedos were a meme until I was like 13 and saw a Brazilian dude wearing one at the lake. Buddy had a huge beer gut and was just rocking the Speedo and flip-flops, having the time of his life. Hating Americans is not a personality. The boring chit chat you'll hate is actually pretty great. Just because someone says hi doesn't mean they want something from you. Deleted. Crazy how the third most populous nation with a history of immigration is routinely pigeonholed. Stop trading insults with us by saying school shootings and then dropping the mic. Many of us are also horrified by the gun violence in this country, but using dead children to win an argument about who has better food does you no credit. Did you check out the monthly Americans Don't Build Sturdy Houses thread today? Lots of really funny jokes about 9/11.